I am Magnus Sterling. I am 72 years old, and I have learned that blood is not a bond. It is merely a biological coincidence. I gave my son and his wife a legacy worth billions, a future secured by the most powerful digital infrastructure on Earth. But they handed me a death sentence for my wife in exchange for a weekend on a yacht. They looked at me and saw a fragile, coupon-clipping retiree who was cluttering up their potential inheritance. They saw a man they could starve into submission. They thought they were leaving behind a helpless old man in a dying suburban house. They didn't know I secretly own the global bank holding the debt that is crushing them. They didn't know I built the very cloud systems they use to post their vanity projects. They underestimated the man who wrote the code for the modern financial world. By tomorrow morning, they will be homeless. Their reputation will be ash, and I will be their landlord, their judge, and their executioner. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The taxi smelled of stale pine air freshener and damp upholstery. It was a stark contrast to the sterile, antiseptic scent of the hospital I had just left. My hip throbbed with a dull, mechanical rhythm, a constant reminder of the titanium joint that had replaced bone only 3 days ago. The surgeon, a man who spoke in rapid-fire bursts of optimism, had cleared me 24 hours early. He called it a miraculous recovery for a man of my vintage. I called it a necessity. I missed Cordelia. I sat in the back seat, gripping the worn handle of my cane. I hadn't called Donovan. I hadn't texted Nadia. I wanted to surprise them. I wanted to see the relief on my son's face when he realized his old man was back to take the burden off his shoulders. I wanted to walk into our modest, beige, suburban home, the shack, as Nadia called it under her breath, and see that everything was fine. "This the place, Mac?" the driver asked, slowing down. "Yes," I said. "The one with the peeling paint on the shutters." I paid him in cash, counting out the bills slowly, playing the part I had perfected over 40 years. The frail pensioner. The retired history teacher counting his pennies. The taxi pulled away, leaving me standing at the bottom of the driveway. The house was silent. It wasn't the peaceful silence of a lazy Tuesday afternoon. It was a heavy, suffocating silence. The kind of silence that hangs over a place where time has stopped. The blinds were drawn tight. The newspaper from yesterday was still on the porch, yellowing in the sun. A shiver that had nothing to do with the autumn breeze walked down my spine. Donovan had promised. He had sworn to me, his hand on my shoulder, his eyes wide with earnest concern. "I'll be there every day, Dad. Morning, noon, and night. Mom won't even know you're gone." I moved up the driveway. My new hip screamed with every step, a sharp, biting pain that made me grit my teeth. I reached the front door, locked. I fumbled for my keys, my hands shaking slightly. Not from age, but from a rising, cold dread. I pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. It was a thick, cloying scent. Sour milk, rotting fruit, and beneath that, the sharp, metallic tang of ammonia, the smell of sickness, the smell of neglect. "Cordelia?" I called out. My voice sounded thin, swallowed by the dark hallway. No answer. "Donovan?" Nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. I dropped my bag. I ignored the cane. I moved toward the bedroom, dragging my stiff leg, panic fueling a sudden surge of adrenaline. The hallway seemed to stretch for miles. The photos on the wall, Donovan at graduation, Donovan at his wedding, Donovan smiling that shark-like smile, seemed to mock me. I reached the bedroom door. It was closed. I turned the handle. The room was sweltering. The heating must have been cranked up, turning the small space into an incubator. The sour smell was overpowering here. Cordelia? I saw her. My wife of 45 years was a small shape huddled under a mountain of heavy blankets. She was perfectly still. Her skin, usually a soft, flushed pink, was the color of old parchment, gray, waxy, and translucent. I lunged to the bedside, the pain in my hip forgotten. Cordelia, my love, wake up. I touched her cheek. It was cold. Not the cold of the dead, but the deep, chilling cold of a body shutting down, conserving every last ounce of heat for the core. Her eyes fluttered open. They were sunken, dark circles bruising the skin beneath them. She looked at me, but she didn't see me. Her gaze was glassy, unfocused, swimming in a haze of delirium. "Water," she rasped. It wasn't a word. It was a sound of pure, dry friction. "Please, water." I looked at the bedside table. There was a glass of water. It was full. Beads of condensation had pooled at the base, ruining the finish of the cheap wood. It was sitting exactly 6 inches from the edge of the table. 6 inches. For a healthy person, that distance is nothing. For a woman with advanced Parkinson's, unmedicated and weak, it was an ocean. It was a cruel, calculated gap. She had been staring at that water, dying of thirst, while it sat just beyond her trembling fingertips. I looked at the dresser. The meal tray I had prepared before I left, a simple pasta dish, sealed in Tupperware, was still there. It had been opened, the lid tossed aside but not eaten. It was covered in a fuzzy layer of green mold. The stench was coming from the corner, a pile of soiled linens. She hadn't been moved. She hadn't been fed. She hadn't been given water. "Donovan," she whispered, her voice cracking. He said, "Rest." I grabbed the glass, my own hand trembling now. I lifted her head gently, bringing the water to her cracked, bleeding lips. "Slowly, my love. Slowly." She drank like a person rescued from the desert, coughing, choking, desperate. I wiped her chin. I checked her pulse. It was thready, skipping beats like a stone on water. "Where is he?" I asked, my voice low, dangerous. "Where is Donovan?" She closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling her back under. "He left. The key. Heard the key." My blood froze. "The key?" "Locked," she breathed. "Locked me in." I stood up. I walked to the bedroom door. I checked the mechanism. It was an old lock, simple but effective. And from the inside, there was no thumb turn. It required a key from the outside. He hadn't just neglected her. He hadn't just forgotten. He had imprisoned her. He had sealed the tomb. I needed to call 911. My hand went to my pocket for my phone. It was an old model, cracked screen, sluggish interface, part of the camouflage. I tapped the screen. It was open to the last app I had used to check on Donovan's business updates, a social media feed. The screen refreshed automatically. Top of the feed. Posted 2 hours ago. A photo. It was blindingly bright. The Mediterranean sun bouncing off white fiberglass and turquoise water. In the foreground, holding a flute of champagne, was my son, Donovan. He was wearing a linen shirt, unbuttoned, looking tanned and relaxed. Next to him, laughing with her head thrown back, was Nadia. And sitting between them, looking like a king holding court, was Garrick Archer. The location tag, Ibiza, Spain, the Archer Summit. The caption hit me like a physical blow to the chest. Finally free of the dead weight. Big moves happening with the Archer Group. The future belongs to those who cut the anchors. New beginnings. Freedom, Archer Summit. Dead weight. I looked from the smiling, champagne-soaked face of my son on the screen to the dying, dehydrated form of his mother in the bed. He wasn't just negligent. He was celebrating. He was partying on a yacht while his mother rotted in her own filth, locked in a room he had sealed. The rage that filled me wasn't hot. It wasn't a fire. It was liquid nitrogen. It was clarifying. It froze my grief, froze my panic, and left only a crystalline, sharp-edged purpose. I didn't dial 911. The local paramedics would be too slow. They would ask questions. They would file reports that would become public record too soon. I needed precision. I needed absolute control. I scrolled past the emergency contacts to a number saved only as H. I pressed call. It rang once. "Sir?" The voice was crisp, professional, and alert. Mr. Halloway, my fixer, my right hand. The man who knew that Martin Shaw, the history teacher, was a fiction. "Halloway," I said. My voice was unrecognizable. It was the voice of the chairman. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Immediate extraction. My location." There was a pause, a nanosecond of processing. "Medical or security, sir?" "Both. Level 1 trauma team. And bring the cleaner crew. I need this house sanitized of biological hazards after we leave." "Understood. ETA 8 minutes. The chopper is already spinning up." "And Halloway?" "Sir? Find out everything about the Archer Summit in Ibiza, specifically Donovan's involvement." "I'm already on it, sir. We've been monitoring a spike in his credit activity. It appears he's trying to buy his way into Garrick Archer's inner circle." "He's not trying to buy in," I said, looking at the photo again. "He's selling us out." 8 minutes later, the silence of the suburbs was shattered not by sirens, but by the heavy, rhythmic thrum of a rotor blade. A black, unmarked helicopter descended onto the cul-de-sac, kicking up a storm of autumn leaves. Simultaneously, 2 black SUVs screeched into the driveway. Men in dark tactical gear spilled out. They didn't look like paramedics. They looked like soldiers. They breached the front door with precision. "Clear right, clear left, target acquired." A team of 3 medics, carrying equipment worth more than the entire house, stormed the bedroom. They didn't ask questions. They worked. IV lines were established in seconds. Monitors were attached. Oxygen was administered. "BP is critical, 70/40, severe dehydration. Renal stress markers are likely off the charts," the lead medic barked into his headset. "We need to move her. Now." Halloway walked into the room. He was wearing a bespoke charcoal suit that seemed to repel the grime of the house. He held a tablet in one hand and a satellite phone in the other. He looked at the rotting food, the locked door, the water glass. His jaw tightened, the only sign of emotion he ever allowed himself. "Sir," he said, stepping to my side, "the transport is ready. St. Julian's has prepared the sterile wing." "Get her out," I said, gently. As they lifted Cordelia onto the stretcher, she groaned. Her eyes found mine again. "Martin, the house. Don't let him take the house." "He won't take anything, Cordelia," I whispered, squeezing her cold hand. "He's going to lose everything." They carried her out. The neighbors were peering through their blinds, phone cameras raised, documenting the spectacle. Let them look. The masquerade was over. "Halloway," I said, turning to him as the medical team loaded her into the chopper. "What do we know?" Halloway tapped his tablet. "Donovan arrived in Ibiza yesterday. He's pitching a fund called Viridian Dynamics. It's a green tech shell company. He's asking Garrick Archer for a $5 million buy-in. He claims to have proprietary algorithms." "He doesn't know an algorithm from a grocery list," I said. "Correct, sir. He plagiarized the code from a GitHub repository. It's a fraud. But here's the kicker. Holloway swiped the screen. He's leveraging the house, and he's leveraging the life insurance policy on Mrs. Sterling. He's betting on her death, I said flatly. He's banking on it, sir. The payout covers his buy-in. If she survives, he defaults on his bridge loan from the Vegas Sharks. He needs her dead by Friday. I looked at the helicopter lifting off, carrying the only person in the world who mattered to me. Friday, I repeated. Today is Tuesday. That gives us 3 days. 3 days for what, sir? I turned back to the empty, rotting house. To burn his world to the ground. The VIP wing of St. Julian's Medical Center was a fortress of glass and steel. I owned the building. I owned the land it sat on. I owned the research grants that paid the salaries of the doctors saving my wife. Dr. Amen came out of the ICU suite 2 hours later. He looked grim. Magnus, he said, dispensing with the Mr. Shaw alias we maintained for public records. She's stable, but it was close. Another 12 hours and her kidneys would have failed completely. This wasn't just dehydration. She had high levels of sedatives in her system. Sedatives? Sleeping pills, a lot of them. It suppressed her thirst reflex and kept her immobile. Someone drugged her before leaving her to dry out. My hands curled into fists. Thank you, doctor. Keep her safe. No visitors. Absolute lockdown. Security clearance level 0. Understood. I walked back to the private waiting room where Holloway was setting up a command center. Screens were already live, displaying stock tickers, bank feeds, and a live stream from a security camera in Ibiza. Status, I barked. Cordelia is safe, Holloway said. But we have a problem with the legal route. What problem? We have the attempted murder. We have the locked door. We need proof of intent, Holloway said. A locked door can be argued as an accident. I didn't know the lock was engaged. I gave her pills to help her sleep because she was in pain. A good lawyer, and Archer has the best, will spin this as a tragic misunderstanding by a stressed son. He locked her in, I shouted, the veneer of calm cracking. We know that, sir. But we need him to say it. We need the confession. Cordelia said it. She told me. Testimony from a woman recovering from severe dehydration and sedation? They'll call it hallucination. They'll discredit her competence. I paced the room. We need undeniable proof. We have one option, Holloway said. We get her statement on record now while she is lucid. A sworn deposition. Do it. We went back into the room. Cordelia was awake, weak but clear-eyed. Holloway set up a high-fidelity digital recorder on the tray table. Cordelia, I said gently, I need you to tell us exactly what happened. For the record. She nodded. She spoke for 10 minutes. She detailed the tea Donovan gave her that tasted bitter. The way he checked her phone and put it in his pocket. The way he smiled when she asked for water and moved the glass just out of reach. And finally, the sound of the key turning in the lock. He said, It's better this way, Mom. Less pain for everyone, she whispered. Holloway stopped the recording. Got it. This is perfect. The less pain comment establishes premeditation and motive. He tapped the device to upload the file to our secure cloud server. Suddenly, the device let out a high-pitched whine. The screen flashed red, then black. Then a skull icon flickered for a second, before the screen shattered from the inside out. What the hell? I snapped. Holloway dropped the device as it began to smoke. He pulled out his tablet. Damn it! Report! It's a kill switch, Holloway said, his fingers flying across his keyboard. We were traced. The moment I tried to upload to the secure server, a countermeasure was triggered. By whom? Sentinel, Holloway said, his face pale. Garrick Archer's proprietary cybersecurity AI. It scans for any data packets associated with his partners that might pose a legal risk. It detected Donovan's name in the metadata of the voice file and nuked the source. You mean the recording is gone? It's wiped, sir. The device is bricked. The file never made it to the cloud. I stared at the smoking plastic on the floor. We had lost it. The smoking gun was gone. Archer's paranoia had inadvertently saved my son. He's protecting Donovan, I realized. Not because he cares, but because Donovan is a liability he needs to control. Without that recording, Holloway said quietly, we are back to he said, she said. If we go to the police now, Archer's lawyers will bury us in paperwork for years while Donovan walks free. I looked at Cordelia. She had fallen back asleep, exhausted by the effort. No police, I said. Not yet. Sir? If we can't arrest him for murder, we destroy the reason he did it. We destroy the money. We destroy the deal. We destroy Archer. Archer is insulated, Holloway warned. He's behind layers of shell companies. Everyone has a leak, Holloway. Find me the leak. We moved operations to the penthouse suite of the hospital. It was my private office, soundproof and secure. Garrick Archer, I said, staring at his face on the screen. Net worth, $3 billion. Holdings in real estate, tech, and logistics. But he's over-leveraged. He owes $500 million to a consortium of banks, Holloway said. Wait, let me dig deeper. Holloway accessed the Omnisphere backend. We didn't just host data, we saw the pathways. The consortium, Holloway said, eyes widening. It's Kensington Capital, Bluestone Ventures, and Zurich Holdings. I smiled, a cold reptilian smile. I own Kensington, I said. I bought Bluestone in '98, and Zurich Holdings is my personal piggy bank. You hold his debt, Holloway realized. You own him. I own the debt, but I can't just call it in without cause. The loan agreements are ironclad. As long as he makes payments, I can't touch him. Unless he violates the terms, Holloway said. Exactly. Pull the contract. Clause 11B. Holloway pulled it up. The morality clause. The lender reserves the right to demand immediate repayment of the full principal if the borrower is found to be knowingly engaged in criminal enterprise or fraud. We need to prove Archer is committing fraud, I said. Archer is too careful, Holloway said. He doesn't dirty his hands. He uses patsies. Like Donovan. Donovan is pitching a fake fund, I said. If Archer accepts that buy-in knowing it's fake, that's fraud. But we need proof that Archer knows. We need his internal comms, Holloway said. But Sentinel is guarding them. I can't hack Sentinel. It's too advanced. We don't hack it, I said. We ask the man who built it. Bennett, Holloway said. The ex-chief of security. The man Archer fired 2 years ago to cover up a data leak. The man Archer ruined. He's off the grid, sir. Last known location was a bunker in Nevada. Find him, I said, and get the jet ready. 4 hours later, I was sitting in a dimly lit dive bar on the outskirts of Reno. The air smelled of stale beer and despair. In the back booth sat a man who looked like he had been chewed up by the corporate world and spat out into the gutter. Bennett. He watched me approach, his hand drifting toward his jacket pocket. Relax, Bennett, I said, sitting down. I'm not here to serve you. You look like a suit, Bennett grunted. I don't talk to suits. I'm not a suit. I'm a father who wants to burn Garrick Archer to the ground. Bennett's eyes flickered. Get in line, Pops. The line starts behind me. I don't want to wait in line. I want to cut to the front. I know you built Sentinel. I know you kept a back door. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Magnus Sterling, I said quietly. Bennett froze. He looked at me, really looked at me. The Omnisphere guy? The ghost? The same. Archer's about to close a deal with my son. My son is selling him a fraudulent algorithm. I need to prove Archer knows it's a scam and is buying it anyway to launder money. Why should I help you? Bennett sneered. Archer destroyed my career. He blacklisted me. Which is why you're going to help me. I'll give you 2 things Archer never did. 1. Redemption. We expose him, and your name gets cleared. 2. $5 million. Cash. Today. I placed a small tablet on the table. It showed a bank account with the balance waiting. Bennett looked at the tablet. He looked at me. He took a sip of his beer. The back door is encrypted, he said. But I have the physical key. It's on a drive in my boot. Get it. 10 minutes later, Holloway was plugging the drive into his laptop in the back of the SUV. I'm in, Holloway said, typing furiously. Bypassing Sentinel, accessing Archer's private emails. Got it. Read it, I commanded. Email from Archer to his CFO dated yesterday. Subject, the Sterling idiot. Body. The kid knows nothing. His code is garbage, but his buy-in covers our shortfall in the Asian markets. Take his money, let him play CEO for a week, then gut the company and dump the debt on him. If the SEC sniffs around, the kid takes the fall. I need that $5 million to wash the cartel loan. He knows, I said. He's knowingly laundering money through a fraudulent deal. That violates Clause 11B, Holloway said, grinning, and about 12 federal laws. Send the files to the SEC, send them to the IRS, and send the morality clause notice to Archer's phone. Time it for the keynote speech. We flew back to New York. I needed to be in the war room at Omnisphere HQ for the final blow. On the flight, I reviewed the file Bennett had given us. It was worse than I thought. Archer wasn't just laundering money. He was Ponzi scheming his entire real estate empire. Donovan wasn't a partner. He was the sacrificial lamb. Archer had already prepared the press release blaming rogue trader Donovan Sterling for the inevitable collapse. My son, I muttered, looking at the clouds. He walked right into the slaughterhouse thinking he was the butcher. He chose this, sir, Holloway reminded me. I know, and now he has to live with it. We landed. I went straight to the top floor of the Sterling Tower. My team, 30 lawyers, forensic accountants, and cyber specialists, was waiting. Gentlemen, I said, leaning on my cane. The target is Garrick Archer. The weapon is Clause 11B. The execution time is Oro 900 Madrid time. That's 10 minutes from now. The main screen on the wall showed the live feed from the Archer Summit. It was opulent. Gold leaf, crystal chandeliers, beautiful people in $5,000 suits. And there, on the stage, was Donovan. He looked handsome. He looked confident. He was wearing a tuxedo that fit perfectly. He was pacing the stage, a microphone in hand, pointing at a PowerPoint presentation full of buzzwords like synergy and paradigm shift. The old ways are dead, Donovan shouted to the applause of the room. Legacy is an anchor. To fly, you have to cut the rope. You have to leave the past behind. He was talking about me. He was talking about Cordelia. I stand here today, Donovan continued, partnered with a visionary, Garrick Archer. Archer stood up in the front row, waving to the crowd. He looked smug, invincible. Now, I said. Holloway hit the enter key. On the screen, we saw the ripple effect instantly. It started in the back row. Phones lit up. Not one or two, hundreds. A wave of blue light washed over the audience. Then, the murmurs started. Donovan faltered. He saw the audience looking down at their laps, not at him. As I was saying, the future. Garrick Archer's phone rang. It was the special ringtone for his private banker. He frowned, pulled it out, and answered. We had tapped the audio. We heard Archer's voice clearly in the war room. This is not a good time, Archer hissed. Mr. Archer, the voice of the Kensington Bank CEO, my employee, said, we have received evidence of your complicity in wire fraud and money laundering. Pursuant to Clause 11B of your master loan agreement, we are calling the note. What? You can't do that. The full principal of $500 million is due immediately. We have already frozen your operational accounts to secure the assets. Your credit lines are terminated. You're killing me, Archer screamed, forgetting the room. Who is doing this? The chairman of the board, Mr. Archer, Magnus Sterling. Archer dropped the phone. He looked at the stage. He looked at Donovan. Sterling, he whispered. At that moment, the double doors of the ballroom burst open. The Guardia Civil, Spain's national police, marched in. They weren't there for the buffet. Donovan smiled nervously. Security is tight today. The lead officer walked up to the stage. He didn't look at Archer. He looked at Donovan. Donovan Sterling? Yes? You are under arrest for international wire fraud, securities fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. What? No. Ask him. Donovan pointed at Archer. He's my partner. Archer stood up. His face was purple. I don't know this man. He's a fraud. He duped me. Donovan's jaw dropped. Garrick, we planned this. Get him away from me, Archer roared, playing the victim to save his own skin. The officers cuffed Donovan on stage. The camera flashed. The live stream captured every second of his humiliation. He looked at the camera, wild-eyed, and screamed, Dad! Dad, fix this! Dad! I watched from my office in New York. I took a sip of cold water. Connection terminated, I said. It took 48 hours for the dust to settle. Archer was fighting for his life, his assets frozen, his empire crumbling. But he had enough cash stashed away to stay out of jail for now. Donovan was not so lucky. He was sitting in a Spanish holding cell. Nadia, panicked and furious, did the only thing she could. She liquidated. She sold the condo, the cars, the jewelry. She emptied the offshore accounts. She scraped together $2 million for bail and legal retainers to get Donovan extradited back to the U.S. pending trial. They were broke, destitute, but they had one card left to play: the house. They believed the shack was worth $500,000. They believed they could bully me into signing it over. They believed I was still the confused old man who would do anything for his son. They flew back commercial, coach. They rented a beat-up Ford Focus. They drove straight to the house. I was waiting for them. I had brought Cordelia back from the hospital for this. She was sitting in her favorite armchair in the living room, an IV drip stand tucked discreetly behind a curtain, a nurse waiting in the kitchen. She looked frail, but her eyes were sharp. I stood by the fireplace. I leaned on my cane. We heard the car screech into the driveway. We heard the angry footsteps. The front door flew open. It wasn't unlocked. Donovan kicked it. The wood splintered. He stormed in. He looked like a wreck. Unshaven, wearing the same clothes from the flight, smelling of sweat and fear. Nadia was right behind him, her makeup smeared, her eyes manic. "You!" Donovan screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You ruined it! You stupid, senile old man!" "Hello, Donovan," I said calmly. "Welcome home." "Shut up! Shut up!" He paced the room, kicking over a small table. "Do you know what you did? You got arrested." "No, I got arrested. Because you didn't die." He stopped. He realized what he said. He didn't care. "You were supposed to just fade away," he yelled. 3 days, that's all I needed. 3 days for the nature to take its course, and I would have had the money. Nadia stepped forward. "Give us the deed. Now. Sign the house over. We need to sell it today. We have legal fees." "The house?" I asked, feigning confusion. "But where will we live?" "I don't care," Nadia shrieked. "Go to a shelter. Go to the street. You owe us. You owe us for being such burdens." "Donovan," I said, looking at my son, "is this what you want? To put your mother on the street?" Donovan looked at me with pure hatred. "She's already dead to me. Sign the papers, old man, or I swear to God I'll finish what I started." This was it. The moment. I needed him to be specific. "Finish what you started?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "You mean the water?" "The water, the food, the pills!" Donovan roared. "I locked that door, Dad. I locked it. I took her phone. I made sure she couldn't call for help. It was a mercy. I was putting her out of her misery so I could have a life." "You locked the door," I repeated, dropping the tremble. My voice hardened. "You intentionally trapped her to die of dehydration." "Yes, and I'd do it again. You're useless. You're nothing. You're just a broke, pathetic history teacher who couldn't provide for his family." He was panting. The room was silent. I straightened up. I let go of the cane. I stood to my full height of 6'2". The slouch I had adopted for 20 years vanished. The pain in my hip was ignored. "History teacher," I said, my voice echoing with the authority of a man who commanded armies of employees. "I suppose I was. I taught you history, but you never learned." Donovan blinked. He stepped back. "What?" "You never learned that you don't start a war with a superpower unless you have the nukes." "What are you talking about?" Nadia whispered, sensing the shift in the air. "I'm not a teacher, Donovan, and I'm not broke." I clapped my hands once. The kitchen door swung open. Mr. Halloway stepped out. He wasn't alone. Behind him were the county sheriff and 2 deputies, and behind them, Bennett, holding a new digital recorder. "Did you get that?" Halloway asked. "Loud and clear," Bennett said. "Streaming live to the cloud this time. Sentinel can't touch it." Donovan froze. He looked at the cops. He looked at Halloway. Who are you?" Donovan stammered. "I'm Mr. Halloway, Chief of Staff for Omnisphere Systems." Nadia let out a sound like a strangled cat. "Omnisphere? The cloud company?" "The cloud company," I said. "My company." Nadia looked at me. Her eyes went wide. She did the math, the name, the age, the secrecy. "Magnus," she whispered. "Your name isn't Martin. It's Magnus. Magnus Sterling." Donovan looked between us. "What? Who is Magnus Sterling?" "He's a billionaire, you idiot!" Nadia screamed, hitting Donovan on the chest. "He's one of the richest men in the world. He owns the bank. He owns the hospital. He owns everything." Donovan looked at me. He looked at the shabby furniture. No, no, that's a lie. Look at this place. It's a dump. It's a set, I said, cold, walking toward him. It was a test. I wanted to see if you could build a life without my money. I wanted to see if you were a good man. I stopped inches from his face. You failed. Donovan dropped to his knees. The realization hit him like a freight train. The money, the power, the missed opportunity. He didn't cry for his mother. He cried for the inheritance he had just realized existed and lost in the same breath. Dad, Dad, please, he sobbed, grabbing my pant leg. I didn't know. If I knew, I would have been better. I swear. That, I said, looking down at him with absolute disgust, is exactly the problem. You only treat people well if you think they have value to you. You are a parasite, Donovan. Sheriff, I said, take this trash out of my house. The deputies hauled him up. He was screaming, begging, bargaining. Nadia was silent in shock, staring at the wall as they cuffed her too. Accomplice to attempted murder, the sheriff said. What we heard the confession. As they dragged him out the door, I called out, Donovan! He looked back, hope flaring in his eyes. You were right about one thing, I said. Legacy is an anchor, and I just cut the rope. The trial was the media event of the decade. The Billionaire in the Burbs. The son who starved his mother. I sat in the front row. Cordelia sat next to me, looking regal. Garrick Archer took the stand. He had cut a deal. Immunity for testimony. He threw Donovan to the wolves. He told me his parents were dead weight. Archer sneered, pointing at Donovan. He pitched the murder as a business efficiency strategy. Then Nadia took the stand. She blamed Donovan. He made me do it. He said it was the only way to pay the debt. Then Donovan took the stand. He blamed everyone. Me, Nadia, Archer, society. But the jury didn't care about the blame game. They cared about the recording. They cared about the timeline. They cared about the glass of water. The verdict took 2 hours. Guilty. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Elder abuse. The judge gave Donovan 30 years. Nadia got 15. As the bailiffs led him away, Donovan looked at me one last time. His eyes were hollow. He mouthed the word, "Why?" I didn't answer. I just turned my back. 6 months later. The air in New Hampshire is cleaner than Ohio. Crisper. We sat on the deck of our real home, a sprawling estate of cedar and glass overlooking the water. The silence here wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. The shack in Ohio had been sold at auction. I donated the proceeds, $10,000, to the local food bank. A poetic justice. The money he tried to starve his mother for would now feed thousands. Cordelia was reading a book. She reached out and took my hand. "Do you miss him?" she asked quietly. "I miss the boy I thought he was," I said. "I don't miss the man he became." "We survived, Magnus," she said. "We did more than survive. We won." Holloway walked onto the deck carrying a silver tray with a single letter on it. "It's done, sir," Holloway said. "The trust has been restructured." "Did he get the notification?" "Yes. The warden delivered it this morning." I picked up the copy of the letter I had sent to Donovan in prison. It detailed the dissolution of the Sterling family trust. The billions he thought would be waiting for him in 30 years were gone. Every cent had been transferred to the Cordelia Sterling Foundation for Elder Justice. The foundation would fund legal teams to hunt down people like Donovan. His inheritance would be used to destroy men like him. But there was a postscript. I read the final paragraph aloud. However, a separate trust has been established in your name, Donovan. The sum is $50,000. He'll think it's a lifeline, Cordelia said. Read the condition, I said. These funds are restricted. They cannot be used for commissary, legal fees, or cash withdrawal. They are exclusively designated for enrollment in the prison's educational programs. Specifically, Introduction to Empathy and Cognitive Therapy for Narcissism. The funds will be released in increments upon successful completion of each course. I put the letter down. He wanted money without work, I said, looking out at the lake. Now, he has to work on his soul to buy a candy bar. It's a cruel lesson, Cordelia said. It's the only one he might actually learn, I replied. I took a sip of my tea. The sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and violent violet. It was the color of a bruise healing, the color of justice. Holloway, I said. Sir? Block his number, permanently. Already done, sir. I closed my eyes and listened to the wind in the trees. For the first time in 45 years, I didn't have to pretend to be anyone else. I was Magnus Sterling, and I was finally, truly, retired. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here,